Welcome everybody, we are live. I started it with something different than, hey, we are live, which is what I always say. So welcome, thanks again for all the support in 2021 if you're new to the channel. I've been doing 30 videos in 30 days, well that's the plan, from sort of late November to late December. That's kind of where we're at right now. So welcome everybody. If anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section. That's what we're doing today. While the thumbnail looked like I was playing live, it's the only photo I had on that computer that kind of works, so that's what we got. I'll update it later. We got Caribou, is it from, oh, I'm not sure where from, maybe from France. Oh, from France. Says, can I suggest something like a 20 watt Hot Rod Deluxe head? Ooh, I have to think about that one. I'm not really sure if there is anything like that. I know the Supersonic, I have a pretty decent clean channel, but you're not really going to get the same sound. It's a 6L6 versus 6V6. There's not a lot of 20 watt 6V6 amps, or 6L6 amps I should say, other than maybe the PRS Sonzera 20, which has a pretty awful drive channel but a great clean channel. Alright, we got Gary, welcome mate. We got Cal B, welcome. Am I picking up any gear for Christmas? You know, there's something that showed itself. They always say that you don't, well, like Rick always says at least anyway, you don't find gear, gear finds you. There's something I used to own years ago that I loved. It was a bit of a limited edition amp, and it was great, and it's popped up, and I went and tested it with a crap guitar at the shop the other day, and it was awesome. So I'm gonna go back and see if it's worse with my stuff to talk me out of it. No, it's a possibility. I haven't committed to anything yet, but there's an amp there that I'm a big fan of. It's basically the Tommy Castro tone, who's one of my favorite blues players, without any pedals. It's really good, but it's heavy, so it's a bit of a deal breaker. But anyway, we'll see how we go. I'll just do the... Hey, we got Rick's here. Welcome, man. I'm at the jam. Where are you? Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Stayed home. Good move for me tonight. I feel good. Got to do some other stuff. Welcome, welcome. All right. We got Fat Philosopher. Welcome. We got David Kornblatt. What do I think of Mike? I don't know who that is, man. Hi Shane. How'd you learn to play guitar? Self-taught or lessons? Mostly self-taught, but still lessons. Lessons in the sense that I had a couple of really great instructional DVDs and VHS tapes back in the day that really helped. And a lot of it comes from also pinching stuff I could see and hear off live concerts as well. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of like going through books to work things out. To me, that doesn't make sense. I'd rather hear it and see it and try to pick it apart that way. And also other friends of mine who knew chords that I didn't know. You pick their brains, they show you stuff. So I remember Rick playing a couple of cool chords. I was like, oh, I'll steal that if I can work out what it is. So you learn stuff along the way, but going through Matt Smith's Beginner's Guide to Blues Guitar was probably the best thing I could do for my blues playing, and then just getting stuck into good music. So that was pretty much it. And Ronnie Earl's one is really good too. Once you get past the Matt Smith one, try get stuck into Ronnie Earl's blues guitar lesson video. It's really, really good. All right, we got John. Welcome, everybody. He says, hello, everyone. I was just reading his thing. Welcome, John. Jamal's here as well. Awesome stuff. Man, it must be early in the US. Is it really early or is it really late? All right. Todd Steele's here. Welcome, mate. Dylan, how are you, man? I haven't seen you for a while. Hope you're doing well. All the best for Christmas and stuff. All right, let's... Regarding the Boss Tremolo video, I own a Walrus Tremolo pedal. I have found having a level knob can turn the pedal into a clean boost. Yeah, for sure. I mean, anything with a volume boost, you'll be able to get that out of it. The only small complaint about the Boss Tremolo is that the wave isn't very, deep. It's a very shallow kind of waveform compared to a lot of other tremolo pedals. There's just far better ones out there. Crazy Tube Circuits make some great ones. Jam pedals have a killer one. I mean, these are more expensive pedals, I guess, as well, but they've got one that the pedal guys had some input into, I think, I can't remember the name of it, it's a blue one, and that thing is awesome. So, Harmonious Monk, really great pedal. There's plenty of good ones out there. Jim Dunlop they used to make this big rectangular one, which is really cool. I just think they need a volume control if the wave goes below the volume. It kind of ducks underneath your level of volume, so it's a bit odd. But yeah, decent sounding pedal, dead clean and quiet and all that kind of stuff. Just a little on the underwhelming side, but people love it, and that's all it matters. Doesn't matter what I think of it. I'm just comparing it against, you know, probably 30 other tremolo pedals I've tried in the last sort of 15 years. But yeah, cool pedal. I mean, the Boss stuff is bulletproof and indestructible, and it's become a classic for a reason. You know, it just keeps on going. If you missed the last Harley Benton video, Dr. Rick, who's in the chat here, Arse Help, was featured in that, so go check it out. Played some Drop D. It's very cool. 5:35 a.m. in upstate New York. So that's either bedtime or you got to get up and go do something important. Hello, Shane. I'm between an American Pro Strat HSS or an Ultra Strat HSS. I owned a Fender Bassbreaker 30R. What would you go for? Man, it really comes down to which one do you like more. I've got a video coming up of the Fender Ultra Strat, and they're nice. They're really, really nice guitars. They're a little unnecessary with some of their design, and you might not... I don't know if that one in particular, the one you're talking about, has noiseless pickups. And that's a different thing again, right? So it sort of means, like... Do you want a classic sounding Stratocaster, although you have got a humbucker in there, or do you want one with noiseless pickups? The noiseless pickups are actually pretty good. I've owned most of them over the years, and they're pretty solid guitars. Sorry, I'm just getting a notification here. It's telling me my bandwidth is too much for the stream. Hang on, I'll come back to that. Sorry, let me just drop this down. All right, let's try that. I'm just going to change my stream here. It's saying it's too much for my data rate or something. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so you've just got to work out whether or not you want a guitar that's got noiseless pickups and some more sort of polish to it, or if the American Pro 2 will be enough, which I think it will be. I think the American Pro 2s are some of the best guitars Fender have ever made. I think they're much better than the American Pro series that were before them. So if you're talking about the American Pro 2, I would probably myself go for that over the Ultra. If you're talking about the American Pro 1 versus the Ultra, I'd probably take the Ultra Strat. But again, it comes down to the pickup choice. TweedTone Tomo, welcome, mate. I don't think learning guitar as a lefty is more complicated than being a righty. Martin asks, being a lefty, did you teach yourself guitar? It actually kind of makes more sense because all the videos you look at are right-handed players. All your friends are probably right-handed players, and it's a mirror. It makes it much easier than... If I have to see what a left-handed player is doing on guitar, it's far harder for my brain to switch that around. I always felt like having it mirrored was far easier for my brain. The only thing that's really tough is tabs, because like it doesn't make a lot of sense. Whereas it makes far more sense for a right-hand play. So unless you really need a tab for something and you just can't work it out, stay away from it. There's a lot of wrong tabs out there as well. Tremolo always gives me the feeling that the windows open all the way down and we're driving at 110. Yeah, I know what you mean, that sort of pulsing sound. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, Trem's great. I mean, at least one of my favorite songs is Feels Like Rain, and that's got a great tremolo part at the start. It's a super cool effect for just, something a little different, and Feels Like Rain is one of my favorites. Stream looking and sounding fine so far. All right, thanks. Yeah, the what do you call it? The stream is now healthy. It's not over congested. in like I was uploading too much data. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. I'm always trying different things with these live stream setups. Well, I wonder if this works. Let's try this. Have I tried Fishman Fluence pickups? I haven't. No, I don't plan on buying those. They don't really interest me that much. I think Dr. Rick tried some in a guitar that we tested at the shop one time on one of the videos. Was it maybe in the Epiphones? Sorry, just let me focus this. It might have been in the Epiphone guitars possibly, or something like that. Oh, where's the dial on the camera? There we go. So yeah, I'm not sure if... sorry guys, I forgot I had this on autofocus here. It finds the faces on the back wall. I think they were in the Epiphone Prophecy guitars. They sound pretty great, but yeah, I'm not really going to be putting any in my guitars. I don't like the whole... I think most of them are active, right? Like, not active, but you've got to charge them up from time to time. Just another thing that can go wrong at some particular point for me. You familiar with Michael Kelly Guitars? That's from Joseph. I am, man. I may have one coming soon into the channel from them directly. So stay tuned for that. It's a new model. I think it's a bit of a hybrid guitar, which should be pretty cool. And you said you recently bought a Les Paul model. Very cool. It's a guitar brand that I don't see often in Australia. I know they're a lot easier to get in other parts of the world. They're starting to come here now, but yeah. So I may have a review of one coming up. I don't know exactly when yet, but I've replied to their email, so we'll see what happens. TweedTone Tomo says, I only just watched your last live stream to Savo. That was about 10 days ago, I think. Something like that. So, yeah, very cool. I didn't end up timestamping that, as you found out. It was just too long. Have I ever played the artist guitars with active pickups? I haven't. No, I don't know if they make any lefties with active pickups. I know that Brett Kingman did some really great videos of some of their, like, hard rock kind of guitars. So, yeah, check out his channel. He's a great player. I've got a Sir Hombre amp, and the trem in that is fantastic. Very cool. What happened to the Artist Gold Top? Oh, I didn't end up keeping that, so that went back to Artist Guitars. What new drive pedals have caught your attention as top shelf lately? Matt, I tell you what, I've got this big video I just finished last night. It's got 14 effects pedals in it. They're more affordable pedals, but there's one in that video that sounds great. And that'll be up in the next couple of days, so stay tuned for that. But I've got a box full, oh, it's not a box full now. They're actually out of dual pedals that I'm really keen to try out. But I haven't tried them yet, so I don't want to hype them up if they're not good. But anyway, I've got a big video coming up, best and worst of 2021, and that covers all the pedals, amps, and guitars of the year that I really loved, including all the overdrives. But yeah, there's plenty of good ones. I've actually got some here that I still haven't tested. I've got the Crossfire from Crazy Tube Circuits, which looks great, and some videos of those have already gone up. I still haven't tried it yet myself, but it's sitting here on the floor. There's nothing that has replaced anything on my board. The only one that I've tried recently that I was like, oh, this is cool, is the new Pedal Pal Effects PAL 800. Great overdrive. It's a Marshall in a box, but it does it really well. But that's pretty much about it. Like, I'll show you. There's a video coming up of these soon, so stay tuned for that. They're all pretty much dirt pedals. So hang in there. It was cool. I haven't done a big, like, range of product videos. Like, I've got 2 videos coming up for these. One will be all the single pedals in the range, and the next will be all those dual pedals. I've got a feeling they're going to be good after doing all the single pedals, which were great. These should hopefully be good, but yeah, stay tuned for my best and worst of 2021. That's all I can say. I put a lot of time and effort into that. It's the 5th annual one, so been doing that a while now. What's your favorite Tokai LS or Love Rock model? Don't think I'll be selling any of my Les Pauls, but you have me genuinely curious about the quality of Tokai. I'll tell you what, like, I like Gibson guitars. I've owned plenty of them. I still own a Flying V. I don't have my Les Paul, the TV Yellow Special anymore. I got rid of that. And my Tokai's still here. So that's outlasted a lot of guitars, that one. I love it. And that's an LS110. The thing that kind of sucks with Tokai is that every year or two the model numbers change, and if you want the same one, it's called something else. It's a real pain, but that's one thing I've always found is the model numbers are all over the place. So yeah, mine's an LS110. The thing that really transformed that guitar was the high pass filter. Made a huge difference to that guitar. But yeah, I know guys that have like gold top made in Japan Tokais, and they're fantastic guitars as well. And side by side with my old Gibson, they're almost indistinguishable in terms of their feel and their finish and all that kind of stuff. Just the price that's really different. Yeah, the best pedal I've got is the Royal Flush. I mean, he asked me about new stuff. And that's the thing with my pedal board. I haven't changed it for so long. I've been generally sort of going to about 4 pedals on the most part for my dirt. The Nordvang Gravity is great. The Royal Flush is great. I use a volume boost a lot of the time as well. Sometimes I'll rip one of those off and put on another pedal that I've had for years. So I'm not often changing things around that much on my main board. I have a second board where I experiment around with stuff, different tremolos, different delays, all of that kind of thing. But I don't often change my live rig because it works. Unless I'm, of course, just going with jam, and then I'll experiment around with different tones. Crossfire looks great. Yeah, Andy Martin did a good video of one recently. Yeah, it looked really cool. I haven't plugged it in yet, but it's supposed to be the sound. Have I tried Chapman guitars? I've only picked up one lefty. I've seen them around. I mean, they look like decent guitars, but they don't really interest me that much, just shape-wise and all that kind of thing. They're more aimed at metal guys. I know they make some traditional guitars, but the one I picked up was the heaviest guitar I've ever picked up. So, yeah, it didn't really interest me on a musical level. I think they're nice and they've got their audience, but yeah, it's not really my thing. I'm not sure how to say your name, mate, but it says it's almost 5 a.m. right now. I'm off to bed. Thanks for joining in. You must be somewhere in Europe by the sound of your name, possibly, or I have no idea. Have I tested out the Jam Pedals Ripley Full Chorus Vibrato Phaser Pedal? You know, I've got that here, and that's the only one of their pedals I still haven't tested. It's on the floor. I've got 4 pedals that need to get videos done, probably about a month ago. But yeah, that's actually on the list. I haven't tried it yet, but it is on the ground. Pretty sure this is the one. This stuff's awesome, man. The Greeks, far out, they make good stuff. Let's have a look. Look at this, man. Look at this stuff. It's crazy. Yeah, there it is. I haven't tried this, so I don't know what to expect. But I'm sure, like most of their pedals, it's going to be pretty good. So yeah, it's coming up. I don't like doing too many pedal videos at one time. Not for the channel anyway. It's like it's easily overdone. So I'm just trying to not do more than 1 or 2 a week at the moment. So yeah, stay tuned. It'll be coming up. At least I do have it. I thought I had that one. For max $600 Australian for house playing, small valve amp or Boss Katana. You might as well just get any digital amp, man. Any of those kind of amps would be better than a valve amp. Valve amps are fun if they're 5 watts and you can turn them down to 1. Otherwise, they're too loud most of the time. I think you'd probably just get better tones with anything like that. Or a Fender Mustang GTX. The best small amps under 5 watts or 5 watts or less. The Marshall DSL-5, great little amp, but you're getting a small speaker. Whereas the Katana, you're buying a larger speaker. So it has more potential to be played live, but the trade-off is you're not getting the tube sound. So, yeah, just it's up to you which one works best for your situation. If you can never turn the amps up loud, the Katana can still be something you can use because you can go XLR out into a sound card or something like that and use headphones or whatever. So it's got more options than a lot of valve amps do. But yeah, you want an amp that you can switch down, and the DSL-5, you can hit a button on the back and it drops it to 1 watt. It's definitely worth it. Just, yeah, those kind of questions are hard. It sort of comes down to your particular living situation. Sean says, "Hi Shane, fellow lefty here. I'm struggling to find a Les Paul alternative with good upper fret access and a belly cut. Basically a Les Paul, no Floyd without custom shop price." I mean, there's guitars. What did I play? Jerry's all those years ago. They made, I think it was Heritage guitars have a lot of those kind of things. They've got like they're a lot thinner for starters. They're shaped slightly differently, and you can kind of get up and play further, but they're still pretty expensive. There's a few modern versions of Les Pauls that also have exactly what you just asked for. Bit more of a cutaway, the belly cut, all that kind of stuff. So those might be something on your list as well. Epiphone make a few like that. Yeah, there's definitely plenty of them out there. But if you need a Gibson that can do that, the modern would be the only one I can think of. I did a video of one like a few months back. It was a black one. It's actually surprisingly good. Hey, Jamal says, "I did something. Put in a pre-order for the Epiphone Les Paul Special. Very cool. Not sure when it will be delivered, but I put it in because the American original Telly demo got sold." Yeah, I think those guitars are pretty much done now, man. Those are so hard to find. Unless you're talking about getting like a brand new, the newest American original series ones, which are completely different. So yeah, oh, that's cool, man. Good stuff. I mean, those Epiphones have never been better. They're making great stuff. So I may have put a couple of those into the best and the worst of 2021 coming up in a few days, so stay tuned for that. There'll be a live premiere for that as well, by the way. So it's a big video. I tested hundreds of things, and yeah, I think you'll get a kick out of it. So hang in there. Joel says, "Hi from Melbourne. Looking for my first reverb pedal to use on the DSL-40. Thinking the Blue Sky, but do you have any better recommendations?" Let me have a quick look here. I mean, the Strymon stuff is about as good as it gets. It depends if you want all of those knobs and controls on it, right? If you can find, I'll type it in. There's an old one. It went up in value for some reason, but it's not worth it. I'm going to type in this one into the chat. Boss and Fender released a reverb pedal years ago called the FRV1. I actually had one. They went up for, I don't know why they're so expensive now, but they doubled in price, but I don't know if it's going to stay there. There's no real reason for them to go up, but they're a spring reverb emulation and they sound great. T-Rex also make a great room sounding reverb that has a valve in it. So have a look at that as well, but that's about it. There's not like 100 different reverb pedals that I can think of that I would use. I like the reverb in the Marshall, but you've got to turn it all the way up. I just leave it on maximum on both dials. But yeah, the best one that I owned was probably the Boss FRV1. ESP. Yeah, there you go. The ESP is another one that has some of those modern appointments. You're right. That's from Michael. From Fat. What are my thoughts on the best pedal to use for distortion overdrive when playing a Strat? Man, these kind of questions, they don't really have an answer. It's like, well, what do you like the sound of and what works for you? Because I could say here, these are the 3 best overdrive pedals, but you're going to have 500,000 people who disagree, right? So I know what works for my sound, and I've been using the same pedals for a long time when I play live because of that very reason. But in short, you can't go too far wrong with a Tube Screamer or a Maxon Overdrive OD808. Surprisingly, I've come to realize how great the Blues Driver is from Boss. It's actually really good. So those two are kind of like your classic sounds, and then you can find lots of different tones from there onwards. But yeah, I love the Royal Flush. It's a 2-in-1. It gives me what I want when I play live. So it works. I've had it on my board now for like probably 4 years or 3 years or something. I would prefer overdrive any day of the week over distortion. Distortion for me isn't as good as having 2 overdrive pedals stacked. It's just not as focused. The sound gets a little bit more sort of bottom, as you know, it just doesn't have the niceness in the mix. And when you're talking about reverb pedals as well, just to reiterate on that, don't discount a lot of digital stuff. Like, I know Strymon is digital, but it looks analog, but you know, there's plenty of pedals that are just like a digital box that have reverbs and delays built into them. Those things are fine. If you're running it through the effects loop, that's exactly what you want. You want a low noise, recallable reverb that if you knock the knobs, it doesn't matter. I find anything with more than 4 or 5 knobs doesn't usually stay on the board unless it's a 2-in-1. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. Jamal says 108 in here and only 36 thumbs up. Oh, really? Come on, guys. Let's underachieve. Let's get it to 45. If I could get any Fender custom shop for free, what would you get? Wow, good question. I'd probably pick... Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I'd probably go for something like either a really top-end Telecaster that's relicked. You might laugh at that, but that's probably what I would get. It's something very different. Or I'd probably pick a high-end Fender custom shop or, you know, USA-made amp. It's a hard question to answer off the top of my head. It's funny because as a lefty, I know what's available, but seeing all the right-handed guitars that are available, I'm like, man, where do I start? And this is the difference between being a lefty and being a righty. There's like literally 10 times more guitars. So I'm not too sure. Should I buy an Artist TweedTone 20 or a Fender Blues Junior? If you can get an Artist TweedTone, I think it's a much better amp. Yeah, it sounds better live. It sounds bigger. It's got way more gain if you want it on the gain channel. It's also got a dead clean channel. So I think it's a much better amp and far less expensive as well. I got 3 amps on the floor, and that's one of them. I've owned 3 Blues Juniors, I think, over the years. I'm not buying another one while the Artist TweedTone is ticking over nicely. So, oh man, the chat just went. Hey, Mr. Fluffulus, is it? I don't know. Sorry. I just bought a Royal Flush from Finland. It should be arriving this week, but I don't get to use it until Xmas. I love the artwork. I tried to resist, but you kept raving about it. You'll love it. It's awesome. Just know that both channels are slightly different in their gain structure to each other. So I usually set up one channel for most of the rhythm stuff, and then I'll use my volume control on the guitar to get more, and then I'll hit the other one as a boost. So they're awesome, man. It's just such a great pedal. There's only a handful of pedals that are like that have stood the test of time with me. And that's the best. It really is. It's so good. Did I ever play vintage guitars with hardware from Trevor Wilkinson? They have some pretty good lefties. I haven't actually played any before, mate. No. I've seen those around for years, those guitars, but never actually picked one up and played one. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a lefty anywhere. Might have been part of the problem. I got a few friends with vintage branded guitars, but not vintage guitars, if you know what I mean. Have I ever flipped a righty Strat and played lefty? No, doing that doesn't interest me either. I have done it as I picked up right-handed guitars and tried to play them left-handed, and my forearm is forever rolling the volume and tone controls on and off. I'm not used to it, so I'm not going to try learning how to do that. Even if I flip the strings, my arm is still in the wrong spot for that. It just doesn't feel right. I'm always sort of avoiding the volume and tone controls. So the quick answer is no. I can appreciate people who do that, but yeah, it would always give me more options of guitars to buy. But it's just too much fiddling around for me. I don't want to mess with it. I much prefer just knowing that everything's the correct way around for me. All right. Hey, Todd, thank you, man. Far out. Hi, Shane. When recording, do you use any mic pre's? I know you use the Steinberg, and I think I've seen some sort of compressor on the screen when you're recording. Also, Merry Christmas. So generally, no. I used to have an actual microphone preamp hardware unit years ago. It was a green one. What was it called? They're great. Like, it was almost $1,000. It was awesome for vocals, but all the YouTube stuff, no. It just goes in. And if I need to sometimes add compression to a clean track in the jam section, I will. But that's because clean it doesn't balance out as easily in the mix when you've got distortion guitars and all that going on. So if I add any effect to the intro track, generally compression's it just to the clean tones. I don't add anything else. I think GarageBand also turns on effects by default, but usually when I render those tracks out, they're all off. I'll pan things left and right, but that's about it. Joe Meek Twin Q was the name of the preamp. That thing was cool, but I found in the end, as technology got better, that it's unnecessary because you can get like pretty much the same effect just by using the DAW's plugins. Even the stock compressor will do essentially the same thing. There'll be a lot of people who don't agree with that, but after owning lots of external hardware over the years, when I used to do a lot of band recording and work with rack units and stuff, the computers just make it too easy. So the easiest thing to say is you don't need any external hardware for that. If you need compression, there's plenty of good plugins. And I'll use it if I'm producing an album, without question, but I don't add like lots of effects to any of the YouTube stuff. I just would rather give you a representation of what it sounds like without polishing it more than that. So yeah, that's it. And thanks, man. Thanks, Todd, for the super chat there, mate. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you. I know what you saw, actually. I should say I also owned a couple of DBX 286S mic preamps. Those things were awesome. So if you that was for podcasting. That was more for podcasting than anything else. So the problem with dynamic microphones for podcasting, you need to drive them big time. And that's what those were for. I actually don't have them anymore either. So, yeah, I found another solution that works for me and using SE Dynamites. They're really great. So, and thanks again, mate. The soft focus on this stream is delightful. Hey, thanks, Leon. I appreciate that, mate. Yeah, this is the Panasonic S5 with the 35mm f1.8. It's working pretty well. I've been slowly retiring the Micro Four Thirds cameras, and I've just gone full frame pretty much in both studio rooms now. I got 2 more I need to sell, and then that'll be it. So I have a flip Strat. It's a pain. You know what? The Strat is a perfectly ergonomic guitar. Flipping it negates all the good things of its design. There you go. Well said. That's one of the big reasons why I won't do it. You know, I picked up so many right-handed guitars and just noodled around upside down, and nearly every time I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. So, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I know Jamal, I think, plays right-handed guitars flipped, but I just cannot do it. Hi Shane, I'm looking at an inexpensive 5-watt amp. Any suggestions? I'm looking at the Artist TweedTone 5. Great little amp, especially with pedals. Any of those kind of Tweed amps like that, they don't sound their best. They can sometimes sound a little raw without using some sort of effects going into them, for me at least anyway. I like a little bit of reverb or delay. Delay is kind of like a reverb replacement on an amp like that for me. And yeah, you can get some great sounds with pedals through that, or just crank it if you can get away with it. The Bugera V5 Infinium is good, especially because of its price, and you can also switch it down into 3 different power settings from 5 watts down, all the way to 1 watt to 0.1 watts. And then you can also get a Marshall DSL5, which is either 5 watts or 1 watt, depending on how you have it set up. They're pretty much my favorite. When you sell a guitar, do you always include a gig bag to help sell it? No. I always end up just having to buy another gig bag. So if it came with a gig bag and it's like branded as the guitar's gig bag, then I'll sell it. But if it's one that I purchased because I needed a gig bag for it, I won't sell it with a gig bag. I always keep 1 box on hand as well. You never know, right? If you sell something, you can pack it up in the box, ship it out, and you're good to go, and you don't have to worry about the bag. So that's a handy thing to do. You just leave a guitar box or go to a guitar shop, ask if they've got any, and stash it under the bed. That's usually what I do. I don't often give bags away unless I've got a surplus of them and I'm moving things on. If a guitar comes with a hard case or a gig bag, it goes with the hard case or gig bag. But I actually purchased like 5 sort of, I think they're called ABS brand or something, just a generic kind of cheap gig bag, and they're great. So they're usually what I have for all the guitars that didn't come in one. GRB Aquatic says, PV Bandit 112 for 300 here. Locally secondhand, excellent condition, good deal. If you mean here, meaning Australia, that's a pretty good price. Generally speaking, I would sell mine between $275 and $300 for the red stripe. Probably could have got a bit more for them, but generally speaking, $300 for a PV Bandit is a good deal. Hey, Matt. Thank you, mate. He says, hey, Shane, excited to be awake for one of these at 3 a.m. in San Diego. Is there a set of headphones you like for practice plugged into your Captor X? You know, I never use that with headphones, man. I don't, but the ones I've got are from Audio Technica ATH30X, ATX 40. It's a 30 or a 40. So they make good quality headphones at a good price, and they're loud enough too. Problem with some headphone brands, you get them, you plug them in, they don't sound very good in terms of their volume. They're just not loud enough. The Audio Technica ones are pretty good. They're like ATH30 or 40 or something. I can't remember the exact number. I don't have them in this room at the moment, but that should get... I'll type it in to make it easier too, man. Someone can I think it's 80. It's ATX or 8030X or something like that. I'll just type it into the chat there. So yeah, I'll usually run. I always run the Captor X into a sound card. So if I ever plug headphones in, it's easier for me to plug them into the sound card than to reach the Captor. Although you can plug them directly in, right? Because there's that port on the front. But it'll be the same. It'll be exactly the same thing. I just like having the volume control on the desk here. It makes it nice and easy. And thanks again, mate. I appreciate it. Grand Sicko, thank you, mate. He says, overdrive pedal for my Vibro Champ 5 watt. Still too loud for home use. I would say go for something that has a relatively flat frequency if you just want to attenuate the amp down. I did a good video on this a while back. It's called Getting Great Tone at Low Volume. And I used like 5 different pedals and they all kind of sounded the same at the end of the day. So generally speaking, you can go for almost anything and dial in a really good sound. Again, it depends on your budget, but it also depends on what you kind of like the sound of. But any of these ones I've showcased recently, any of the Boss pedals will give you the same effect. The OD3, the SD1, that's a bit of a higher gain pedal, but you probably want the Blues Driver will be a good choice for that. You can just wind the volume control down and turn up the gain and get a usable sound. There's just plenty of those pedals. The Royal Flush will do that well. I've tested it with, let me see if I can find that video. I'll type it in for you, mate. Yeah, I don't think you'll have any trouble doing that with any overdrive, basically. Tones, low, volume. Can't remember what. Yeah, here we go. This is when I was fat over lockdown. You can check this out. Grand. All right, there we go, mate. There you go, Grand. I've just sent you a link, mate. Check it out, and that should give you a good guide on how to do this exact thing, getting good tones at low volumes. There's actually, you can do it with any pedal, basically. And it doesn't always have to be an overdrive, too, unless you want a dirt pedal. You can do it with just about anything. It's got a volume control, so yeah, just keep that in mind. Thanks again, mate. If you're on a budget, I'll just throw this in. Try the Kalen effects. Try the Joyo effects. Any of those will do exactly the same thing as well. You've just got to dial in the amp and the pedal correctly, but just make sure you turn when you turn the pedal off, you're aware that the amp will probably be louder. Whoa. Sorry, the chat just flew down. Do I have any single pickup guitars at the moment? One, and that's the Harley Benton DC. Oh, it's not back there. That blue one. But I don't know if I'll be holding on to that. One pickup for me is fun, but it was going to be my slide guitar. But it's another guitar sitting around. I'm probably not going to use a whole lot, but it's a nice guitar. Just one pickup, an SG. SGs, if you know my channel, I'm not the biggest fan of. Inherently, I just don't bond with SGs very well. I've owned a few and just never kept them long term, so it has a similar fate. But the Harley Benton with the 2 humbuckers, I love the Fusion T. That thing's awesome. Magic Man says, 3 a.m. in California. Why am I up? Yeah, that's a good question. Don't worry, mate. I'll put you to sleep. Don't worry, this is what the effect of the chat has. You'll be asleep in no time. It is 10:15 p.m. here. I have a 1969 Satellite Matsumoki Lawsuit Stratocaster. It's very closely copied off the Fender 69 large headstock Strat. I play it upside down, strong left-handed. Well, if you're used to that, man, go for it. That's super cool. You know, I think when you get comfortable doing something for a long time, it's hard to sort of just go, okay, I'm going to buy right-handed guitars and string them up. Because you're going to have to compromise your arm position. And that's the thing for me that is the biggest deal breaker. Just forever accidentally knocking the volume and tone controls. It happens all of the time. Every right-handed guitar picked up, I do that on. So, yeah, you got to be aware of that to not have to think about it. Got a Marshall DSL 5C after Shane's review. Great amp. I highly recommend it. That's from Craig. Thanks, man. Thanks for the feedback. I love that little amp. It's awesome. Stay tuned for the best and worst of this year too, because I may have put that in there. It's a killer. I bought a set of Beyerdynamic headphones, but they sound awful for guitar. Yeah, there's the best set of headphones I ever bought were one of the most expensive, and they also lasted 12 years. And they were the Technics DJ 1200s. They still make them. I think the name may have changed. But if you can find those anywhere, they're made in Japan. The things sound amazing for electric guitar. They're noise cancelling as well, but not in an active sense. Just the pads are comfortable and they inherently block a fair bit of noise. Those are awesome. I used to use them all of the time. Yeah, it's hard to find like great, lesser expensive headphones unless some of the Sennheisers at a moderate price of about, $100, $120 can be okay. But they don't really get great until you spend far more. And I think Audio-Technica are kind of like a good brand at their price, like at $100 to $120. You start getting better headphones than you would in some other brands. I mean, look, I haven't tried them all. But I know after owning the Technics and I got a free set of Beats a while back. And a lot of people hang it on Beats for, I don't know why, maybe they're like a mainstream brand or something. But they actually don't sound too bad and they're pretty comfortable. But the Technics, man, they were super loud as well. Very, very good headphones. Yeah, it's you sort of get what you pay for most of the time with headphones, but not all of the time. There's some dud brands out there. I would say stick to the brands you know. Yeah, big time. Eric says, not a headphone guy either. Have a nice set of Sennheiser Pro 280s that are awesome for recording and mixing. Yeah, if you're going to be doing any type of audio production, you need to get good headphones. And the Sennheisers are pretty much what I would go for if I was doing like mixing full time. Yeah, they're really, really good. It's a sad state of affairs though that when it comes to headphones, you really do get what you pay for. I bought when I was doing this podcast thing, I bought a couple of lesser expensive sets of headphones. And I really regret buying them. I can't even remember what brand they were, but they were not good. They look cool, but they were big, they were comfortable. I plugged them in. I'm like, oh, these are crap. No wonder they're $60. Hey, Matt, thank you, mate. He says, you do a great job, man. No need to read this. Discovered your channel going through chemo. Oh, far out, mate. And was something to look forward to when I needed it the most. Hey, thank you, mate. I hope you're doing all right too with your health. Far out. That's full on, mate. Thank you. And I don't know what to say. Thanks for the support and all the best to you too, mate. I love making videos. Even before YouTube, it was a thing that I did, and all the videos I used to make back with the crappy camcorders were not very good, but I always enjoyed doing it, and music was something that I fell in love with, and yeah, I like all this kind of stuff. It's great fun. So yeah, thanks for the support. I appreciate it. Yeah, far out. All right, hey, Katana Guitars here. Sorry, man, if I didn't say hi before. The chat flew right down the bottom here. Mike Nash says, hey, Shane, I've been watching on and off for a year and a half. Your reviews have helped me with pedal choices. I run More. Very cool. Good brand. And someone asked me before about inexpensive pedals. There you go. There's a great example of something I just completely forgot about. More brand, or Moore as I used to call them before we knew how to say it. And Sonic Cake also make really great stuff for their price. Thanks. I appreciate the kind words. I paid $40 on an eBay auction for the 1969 lawsuit copy of the 69 Fender Strat. Hang on, wait. I paid $40 on an eBay auction for a 69 lawsuit copy of the 69 Fender Strat. Wow, cool, man. Well, congrats. That's pretty cool. So it's a lawsuit copy of a guitar. but it's still old. Is that how that works? There's a lot of there's a lot of confusion in that post, but I like it. Have I ever tried the MXR 78 Badass Distortion? I'm pretty sure I have. I did this big pedal board video. It was, I think I called it Pedal Board Galactica or something, like 6 years ago. And then after that, I did a whole lot of individual pedal reviews from that board, and it was on that board. I think it's on there. Let me just have a quick look. I'll see if I can find it real quick. These are pretty cool pedals. I think they're red, right? Is that the one? Yeah, I have. I've got one on there. Just type in MXR 78 distortion pedal demo. It'll come up. So, yeah. Very cool. They're great pedals. That's another brand I always forget about as well. All the Dunlop. Other than their wah, I forget about all the MXR and Dunlop stuff. Not because I don't like it. It just goes under my radar, or I forget about it. Mr. Scrofulous says, he sent a super chat. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. He says, hi from a refugee stuck in central Queensland. I was like, oh no, where's this going? YouTube has kept me sane for the last 6 months, and your content is much appreciated. Hey, thanks, mate. You know, like, it kept me sane as well, just being able to focus on something else. You know, Melbourne obviously had it pretty bad, probably the worst in the world. So, not to say it's better than other places or worse than other places, but yeah, it sucks, man. And I appreciate the support. Thank you. You know, the first lockdown we had that went all year, basically, Dr. Rick and I, we were doing live chats every Sunday to keep ourselves sane. You know, we had an outlet of just jamming together virtually, whereas I know a lot of people didn't, and it wasn't easy for a lot of people. I'm just looking forward to hopefully next year being very different to the last 18 months here. I do everything I can to kind of get out of Melbourne as well coming up. So there might be some news coming up pretty soon once I confirm a few things, but yeah, I think there's going to be a max exodus out of Australia coming up for a lot of people, even just for a fair bit of time away somewhere else. But yeah, thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Kept me sane too. I was getting as frustrated as everybody else. But yeah, so I try to keep busy. And, you know, times like that, I think the only thing you can do is kind of try to work on stuff, or try to set up something else, or exercise, or whatever the case is. Just try to find something that you can sink your teeth into and or learn something new, you know, all those kind of things. Thanks, mate. Hey, thanks, Guitar Man. Cheers, mate. I don't know if I'm the best. I just try to be consistent with what I do, and I try to keep the standard up to where I'm happy releasing videos. If I'm not happy with a video, it doesn't go up, or I just postpone it. You know, there's a couple of videos that are, one or two that have gone up this month that I kind of held off releasing because I wasn't overly happy with them, and I totally forgot they were in the queue. So you've seen some videos go up this month that were like 2.5 months old and just set to unlisted, and I forgot about them. So yeah, I'm just pretty fussy with what I release on the channel, and I try to keep it growing. Also, next year will be a different year of content. I plan on mixing things up big time. I love doing reviews of gear, but I want to intermix that with a lot of the other stuff I used to do with other content outside of the house and outside of this room. So stay tuned. I have some really good plans in the works for next year, and I should probably know by Tuesday whether or not this is going to happen. At least the first part of this. And you're going to see some completely different stuff. I've been putting a lot of work in on trying to organize, trying to make the channel different for next year to keep my own interest in it and to also broaden it to maybe something a bit new. So thanks, I appreciate that. So yeah, that's my little 2 cents of what I try to do. I don't often copy stuff I see. I know a lot of channels will rip off ideas from other channels, and yeah, I love doing that kind of stuff. I might take inspiration from a channel, but I don't blatantly rip it off. I see that all the time, and I just try to shut off from it. That's why I don't watch a lot of guitar channels, because I'm like, oh yeah, I saw this 2 years ago. Oh yeah, I saw that a year ago. It's like, There's some great ones, right? Don't get me wrong, but the videos I'll watch now are usually more educational than they are stuff related. Because I also don't like tainting my videos from opinions of others. This is my experience with it, and here it is. That's kind of how I look at it. That's the best way you can work when you're doing reviews. Shut off all the noise and complaints and all that, and see what it is that you like about it. That's kind of how I try to work anyway. Oh, guys, thank you so much. Super chats, what's going on? I'll get back up to all the questions too. I just like to answer the super chats before they expire, so that I haven't missed anyone's question on purpose here. Alan, thank you so much, mate. Alan Sam's Music. Shane, do you know of a Bluetooth headphone brand that you could use with an amp or audio interface that won't have too much latency? Love your content. Look, I haven't had a lot of experience with Bluetooth headphones. The ones that I own, I think are really good. And they were free with a computer that I purchased, right? I got a set of those Beats by Dre over-ear ones a while back. And they have really low latency from the computer audio. The problem is when you come from an audio interface or an amp, that's where the problems are going to start. I think your best bet might be... See, I can't really recommend these, but Boss make a set of headphones, and they're good, but they're so overpriced in Australia. They're like $700. You might as well just buy an amp and plug good headphones into it. So the quick answer is just buy a really great set of wired headphones. I don't think you can replace the convenience of that. You'll never have to charge them up. And if you can find a good set that has a replaceable cable from the actual ear to the plug that goes into the headphone socket, then you're in luck. They'll last for a long, long time. And that's kind of like a prerequisite. If I'm buying high-end headphones now, I want to have one that I can detach the analog audio cable, 3.5 millimeter cable from. Now, the Beats by Dre's also have that. Not that I'm like shilling out for Beats by Dre's, but that's the only pair I've got. But they're Bluetooth, but you can also plug in an actual cable. So there might be other alternatives like that out there. But generally speaking, there's always going to be an inherent lag that might be too distracting. But from the computer to the headphones, when I'm using them for editing late at night or whatever, they're fine. I don't have any latency issues. So yeah, that's a tough question to answer, and I apologize. I don't have an exact answer, but that's as close as it's going to get. I haven't used them for that particular situation before. Just for editing and other stuff, generally Bluetooth to the computer, they work great. So if you can get an amp to the computer, maybe via USB, and then use your Bluetooth headphones connected to the computer. I know that's a lot of things to connect it to. The lag shouldn't be that bad with a good set of headphones. But yeah, again, the only ones I've got are that one pair. And thanks for the super chat, mate. Hopefully that's at least helped. Jeff, thank you, mate. Hi, Shane. Have you ever had a guitar with an option to bypass the pots and straight... have you ever had a guitar... have you ever had a guitar with an option to bypass the pots and straight into the jack? Yeah, I did have, I think what Fender were calling grease bucket circuits years ago. I think that's what they were called. I had it on an American Highway 1 Stratocaster, which was a great guitar. Again, another guitar I should have kept. But basically that had a pot that you could then turn into a position, and it would sort of go through without going through the pot itself. At least that was the theory. And it will make it brighter. So I don't know if any of the other guitars that I've owned... Hang on, let me just think. I think that was the only one, the American Highway 1 Strat from... I don't even know what year it was, man. Probably 2004, maybe. I can't remember how old those guitars are. But yeah, you can get a much brighter sound out of just bypassing those pots. I know a few guys that use like different circuits in their Strats and stuff, but I don't actually have it in my guitar. Usually the Strat and the Tele for me is bright enough, but sometimes if you do need a bit of that extra steeliness, you can do it. Yeah, and you say he was surprised by the extra brightness. So yeah, there you go. Very cool. And thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Alan Sams' music as well. All right, I'll just go back up here and we'll go down the chat. Have I ever played an Eric Johnson Strat? This is from Type NJW. I haven't, mate. No. I don't know if they make lefties in that. A guy I know actually has one of those, and they're pretty nice. But yeah, I've not played one before. How many out there have a Vega Trem? I don't. I know of them, but I don't have one. David Kornblatt, I hope you're doing well, mate. Thank you. Hi Shane, greetings from Ballarat, Victoria. Just wondering which artist guitars do you recommend for playing mostly alternative and punk rock? Let me have a look. The ones that I enjoyed the most was the Gold Top. The Gold Top, the recent Les Paul style one, the LP56, is that what it's called? Was really, really good. I mean, look, the thing with guitars, right, you can play any style of music on just about any style of guitar. You know, if you're playing some heavy stuff, you might even get a kick out of the Jazzmaster. It's pretty inexpensive and it sounds good, but I would stay away from anything that's got like an arch top or a hollow body design just for feedback. If you want to play high gain stuff, go for a solid body guitar of any description. You're not really limited on what you can play from like an LP style or even their, I think they've got a, let me just have a look here. Yeah, so they've got an LP6, which looks pretty good if you're into that sort of like more modern style electric guitar. Brett Kingman did a great review on the Blue Cloud, I think it's called, artist guitar, and that was great. But yeah, just go for anything that doesn't have an arch top or an F hole in it. That would be my decision. There's no real right or wrong there. A lot of you could even rock out with one of their Tele TC59s. They're great guitar and they'll handle gain without any problems either. Kevin says, I had an American original Talia. I couldn't get on with it. The pickups were very generic. Okay, and distant to me. Am I wrong? Yes. Mate, I tell you what, I shot a live clip with Rick and the guys a couple of weeks back, and mate, I haven't had a better Telecaster tone. So I think Tallies really respond to good volume and good attack. And obviously there's other things that can influence the tone as well, but man, I love those pickups. They're awesome. And it could have been maybe a pickup height thing possibly on that one. I'm not too sure, but yeah, look, not every guitar is for everybody either. There's some guitars I love that people won't, and vice versa, right? Like I've owned guitars like SGs, and I'm like, man, I wish I loved this, but I just can't get it to work for my sound. And other people are like, oh, that's a great guitar, you know, it's easy, just do this. But they play very differently to me. So I think Strats and Tallies rely heavily on attack, especially on how dynamic you play and how responsive it is once you start cranking up the volume of the amp. That's where they're at their best. Lee, I never use the tone control on a Tally or a Strat. They might as well pull them out of all of my guitars. But that's kind of how I feel about it. I love those pickups. I wouldn't have bought it otherwise. It was everything I wanted in a Tally. The neck feel, the pickup tone. Yeah, I mean, I've used it on 1,000 videos. I'm really brutal with stuff. If I don't like it, I sell it, and I don't regret it, and I'm not selling mine. But yeah, it doesn't mean you're wrong, mate. You might have just got one that you didn't bond with, so don't stress about it. All right, let me scroll back up. Sorry, the chat just moved 2 pages up. Hey, Craig, thank you, man, for the coffee fund. Appreciate that, mate. I just stopped off at the shop before to get some sugar-free. This isn't my normal one, so I'm not going to show people what. I'm actually kind of depressed I had to get this one today, but it is what it is. We go for the 2 for $5 deal. That's usually what I like to spend. Mr. Scrofulous says, I get to go home to King's Cliff this coming weekend. Have been stuck working, have bought way too much gear. Yeah, that happens to a lot of people I know in my friend circle. If they're not playing out live or whatever, they just start buying stuff, and all of a sudden they got 7 pedals they'll never use. So, yeah, it can happen. Happens to me with, these days, more so tech gear than anything else. It's like, oh, man. Because I get a lot of guitar stuff on loan, or I get stuff sent out. It's different for me now being a guitarist. I can kind of test stuff out and borrow it from the shop and take it back if I don't like it. But I could see if I stopped doing this for whatever reason, it would happen again, because I'd be like, oh man, I'd love to try that amp. You know, it'd be a whole different scenario. Or if I moved somewhere else and I didn't have access to stuff like I do now. But yeah. And Craig, thank you again, mate, for the super chat there. I'm sorry if I didn't say thank you. Yeah, it'll definitely go into the caffeine fund. Which tube screamer would I recommend? So there's 2 that I love, and there's one that's great. And it doesn't really matter which one you buy. The Maxon Overdrive OD 820, 820, one of my favorite pedals of all time. That thing's great. It's a clean boost, and it's also a typical overdrive pedal with a bit more clean headroom. The Apex 808 is expensive, but it sounds unreal. And that's one I don't plan on getting rid of. I've actually got it somewhere up there. Another one that's great, that's less expensive and just as, or maybe more versatile than the classic, is this one. The Odie. This thing is like a custom tube screamer for $100, or sometimes less. They're made in the US as well. Very good pedal. Used it live. You can see the Velcros on the back. And this is something I've been using again on the channel because it's great. It didn't get used enough. And you can go for a bog standard Maxon OD 820. OD 808, sorry. Awesome pedal. So, yeah, or a tube screamer. Tube screamers are rehoused Maxon pedals. So, yeah, it doesn't matter if you buy an Ibanez or a Maxon, they're going to be essentially the same thing. If you look at their range, they may look visually different, but they're essentially the same pedal in a different box. Stay away from all the ones with valves in them as well. After owning a few of those, I'm not as convinced they're better. Just go for a bog standard classic one. And if you want to find anything that's like less expensive, there's a million tube screamer clones. They're all pretty good. 80 thumbs up and 135 in the chat. Oh, come on. Can we get to 100? All right, we've got Jason from Stuttgart in Germany. Have I used the Bias FX2 and what do you think of it? I haven't, mate. I haven't tried that one, sorry. I did try the old version of that. This was going back when it was first out, and I think my computer had some problems with the processing of it or something like that. It was the standalone version, but I should try that again. They make good stuff, but I haven't tried that one. Sorry, man. What do I think of the Love Pedal Babyface Tremolo? That's one I don't know. I don't know that one. Let me see if I can... Sometimes I say that and I look it up. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that one. So I'll just quickly Google it. Yeah, I don't know this one. Yeah, sorry. No, I haven't actually used it. It's got one control. Is that right? Or has it got two? It's hard to see on these little photos, but... yeah, they make good stuff, so if you like the sound of it, go for it. Again, I would try and find one that has quite a wide sweep on depth control, so you want it to go above and below your volume rather than just kind of ducking below it. That's what I look for. Is it Perez? Is that how you say your name? Hope that's right, mate. Quick question. Some of the close-ups in the previous videos look like they got spider webs in them. You're living in Australia where everything is deadly. Should I worry for your health, or is it just an effect? Oh, I know what you're talking about. So yeah, there's this zoom and pan effect that I use that has like a cracked glass kind of effect, and it looks a bit like spiderwebs. It's just a nice, fast way of getting a cool effect that's a little bit different. I've been doing the same pan out Ken Burns effect things for years, and I was like, man, I'm so sick of this. What else can I do? So I came up with that. But yeah, sometimes also when I review stuff, it's been out for ages. And if you're literally thinking they're cobwebs, it could just be that it's been sitting out. I've been playing it, and I haven't put it in the box. But I think you're talking about that effect. Hey, we got Dr. Rick says the Fender Eric Johnson Strat is one of the best artist Strats. They're quite reasonably priced, second hand, and the tone and feel are great. Yeah, I remember the necks on those. A lot of people like. I think you may have mentioned that years ago. Christian Rose says lockdown is hitting me hard. I was fine during and played music every day, but now never been so stressed. Man, that's tough, mate. Just yeah, if you can, just they say walking is great. I really think it is. It helps clear your head. It sort of helps distress you, and you got to start sort of making an effort to, get out whether you want them or not. And you may find that helps depending on where you are too. But yeah, mate, sorry to hear that. But yeah, all the best. Grease bucket circuits are on the American Performer Series. Oh, there you go. Cool. I had a 2006 Highway 1 that had the grease bucket tone pots. There we go. So I was close. Did I say 2006? Or did I just imagine that? Anyway, they were great guitars. And interestingly enough, those things used to wear really quickly. You could put them in a gig bag, take them out, and the paint would start to fall off it. It was like, what? So, yeah, it was a real relic job. They were some good guitars, man. I think they were... Yeah, I don't know. I don't really remember why I sold mine. I think it was just a financial thing at the time. I probably needed to get rid of it or something, but great guitar. 3:30 a.m. in Los Angeles. Insomnia sucks. Shane makes it better. As I said, this is the best cure for insomnia you could get this live stream. So you'll be sleeping in no time. Even the funny thumbs up reaction images of Shane adds to the review process. Thanks, man. And that great consistency over the long run has made the channel a trusty review channel. Context into a mix too. Thanks, mate. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think one of the things that might separate, hopefully, this channel is the longevity. Even though it's not the biggest channel out there, and there's channels that do really great reviewing gear, I also love testing stuff live. Because you kind of work out, oh, I didn't realize this, or oh, wow, this is awesome. And you start to see value in stuff you might not have noticed just playing at the house, or whether or not something doesn't work at all. So, yeah, I just try to stay consistent. I usually give my opinion at the end of each video based on its context to who it's aimed at or for and to. I've stopped sort of saying stuff like, while I don't love fuzz pedals in fuzz pedal reviews, because people watching it will love fuzz pedals. So I just try to think about it. All right, so compared to other fuzzes, how does this one sound? Or whatever the case may be. That's kind of how I look at it now. But hey, I Rocks the Blues says, I love the Charvel guitar video. Just goes to show you can play blues on a Charvel. That thing is so good. That guitar is friggin' awesome. And I'm liking it more and more. I had to get it set up again because I had this damp issue in my cupboard. So I took in probably 4 of my guitars to get serviced. And that was one of them. And it plays great, and it's light, and it's awesome. So the Johnny Highland pickups, some of the best single coils you can get. That thing sounds every bit as good or better than any of my other guitars, the Strats or Tallys. It's a great mix of both. And it's lightweight as well. I had no expectations of Charvel. Oh, hang on. Did you say... Charvel. Sorry, man. I'm thinking of the Kiesel is what I was talking about. The Charvel guitar video. Yeah, well, there you go. Sorry, I got the brands mixed up in my head. The Charvels are very different. I'm not a huge fan of the Floyd I got to be honest, that thing gave me nothing but grief trying to understand how that worked. But I may have a review of one coming up probably next year at this point without all of that stuff. And I think that'll be a much more pleasurable guitar to play. So, but yeah, you can play blues on anything. Doesn't matter. You grab a Jackson guitar or a Peavey or doesn't matter, any of the pointiest guitars you like. If they sound good, you can play just about anything on them. So thanks, mate. Any cost-effective options for helping cleaning guitars? I use clean microfiber cloths, but I think I should use chemicals. No, you don't really need to use any of that sort of stuff, mate. Just get, Gibson make a polish. You can buy that. I use stuff from Diodario. They make a pack, this spray I've had for probably 12 years. A couple of sprays, good to go. And I don't obsess about it. I only clean a guitar when it really needs to be cleaned. There's some people who clean it after every time they play it. It's my opinion, that's kind of unnecessary unless it's really quite filthy for some unknown reason. So the only time I really clean under the strings on anything when I restring the guitar, but not every time either. They shouldn't be getting that filthy. Another thing that I've come to sort of learn is I use this before every gig and before every video I shoot. I got like 5 cans of this stuff in this room because I go through it all the time. And this kind of helps keep, I think, the fretboard pretty clean. Although it makes it easier to play, they don't seem to get dirty anymore. And I don't know if it's just because I got this. So finger ease is pretty good. But yeah. Do you just buy a pack of, like a cleaning pack for $20 and it will last you forever. You'll have it for years. I've got this fretboard conditioner I bought in 2007 and I don't think I'm a quarter of the way through that stuff. I hardly ever use any of that sort of stuff on my guitars. You can get, I think, obsessive about it. I've seen some people like that. You just don't need to use that much of it. Unless you live in a really strange climate or something like that. But yeah. Just look up a proper guitar product. Don't go putting Windex on your fretboard. A mate of mine did that, and he bubbled the rosewood. So don't ever use anything alcoholic on the fretboard or on the guitar at all. I wouldn't do that. Here we go. John says best artist punk rock guitar is either the single humbucker, $99 Strat, or the Grunge Master with the 2 P90s. There you go. Yeah, the Grunge Master was their Jazz Master I was talking of before that. That's a great little guitar. Brick says 100% self-taught. That's why I've got so many bad habits. My playing serves as a warning to others about what not to do. Yeah, right, man. I'd love to have 30% of your recall, Rick, for remembering songs, and it would be a whole different playing experience. Quicksilver says, I know you sold the Gibson Les Paul Special, but what about getting an Epiphone Les Paul Special? They're awesome guitars. I love it, the Epiphones. I think they're great. I think if I'm ever going to get like another gold top, I'd probably get the 50s Epiphone. I don't know if I want another P90 guitar for a while. I've had a couple of them over the years now, and they're usually the first ones I move on. I don't have anything against P90s. They're great. Listening back to some of the videos I shot last month for this month, I was like, man, yellow guitar sounded awesome. But when I don't reach for something to take it out of the house, that's usually a sign that I prefer playing other stuff. So having a guitar I'm less invested in would be a great move. So I have no hesitations with the Epiphones. I think they make great stuff. I love the Boss videos lately. Can we get some more Boss videos? Yep, there's 4 or 5 more in the can, which means they're already done, they're already uploaded, already scheduled. I've got delays, flanger, pretty much like a whole bunch of different ones, so stay tuned. I shot all of those in a day and a half, basically, and yeah, I just flew through them. They're all one camera on me, one camera on the pedal, so very simple recording process, and I just said, I'm going to play until I get it right. And it was, I was just on a roll those 2 days. It was fun going through them all. All right, we got a super chat here. Thank you, Is it Ed? Ed Vetterman. Welcome, mate. Thank you. Love the channel, Shane. I'm enjoying my Studio 22. I hadn't considered Mezza for blues rock until seeing your little wing snippet. Cheers, mate. Those things are awesome. So congrats. The Studio 22s are one of the best combos you can buy. They're super loud. They're quite heavy for their size, but unbelievable. That's the Gary Moore sound, kind of. You know, it's got that classic higher gain blues rock sound, yet you can get... It doesn't have a lot of clean headroom, but for a 22 watt amp or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The magic is in that other channel. So, yeah, thanks for the super chat and for the humble brag there, mate. That thing's a killer. It's a really good amp, so well done. Oh, Rick just says, congrats on your Mezza Studio 22. I bought one back in 88. I really wish I still had it. Yeah, great little amps. I would almost argue they're probably one of the best combos they make for that size. Like, what else is there? They got another one I really love is the California Tweed, which I played. That thing is something special, but you know, you're paying a fortune. They're just over in Australia. Boogie amps are overpriced. They're $5-6 grand. It's like, what? Really? My car's not worth $5 or $6 grand. Not discussed too often, but what do you find are the best guitar stools and chairs? Office chairs with no arms. So you probably see this one I use in all my videos, right? This thing has a high capacity hour sitting time. And they're so comfortable. You can completely change the height, the tilt, everything about them. And there's no arms, so you're not banging your guitar into the arms. I've also got a stool I used to sit on, which I still have as well, which are pretty good. But I find if you need to sit and play, you can't beat a good office chair. It doesn't even matter what brand it is. Just make sure they're rated for 8+ hours. Even if you're only sitting on them for 45 minutes, you'll appreciate a great chair. So that's what I would suggest. You can buy branded stools. I've had them. I don't necessarily think they're very good because you can't change anything. The only thing that they do is spin on the top. I think there are some high-end ones that are pretty good. They're quite padded on the top. Again, though, this chair kicks ass. I would buy a really high-quality office chair. And that's what I did. They work. They're a bit of a hard purchase. Like, I think this chair was like 220 Australian dollars. It's like, oh, it's more than I want to spend on a chair. But it's been unreal. I don't regret it whatsoever. I'm not sure how to say your name. He says, I've got a Strat. I've had it for years. I've never been able to buy things that cost a lot of money all at once. So I put an ultra noiseless pickup in and a Seymour Duncan JB in the bridge. Very cool. I've got a video coming up of a guitar with those ultra noiseless pickups. I'm pretty sure the ultra noiseless, I don't know, it's in a couple of days anyway, so stay tuned. And great combo, mate. The Seymour Duncans are good for the rock players. It's a good upgrade. Perez says, soon 200k, well deserved. Quality content always. It's a strange old thing with my channel. It just sort of... It very rarely ever gets huge spikes in subscriptions. It just slowly gets more and more. I don't care. It doesn't bother me anymore. I just keep doing what I do. And if people join, they join or subscribe or whatever. Yeah, the only time it really goes crazy is if you have a super high traffic video. But I don't strive for those too much anymore. Like, I just keep doing what I do. And if they take off, that's cool. And if they don't, what can I do? I don't want to chase that. A lot of channels that always look for those kind of videos, and In the Blues isn't really one of those kind of channels. It's more like high quality review content that's never really, you'll never believe what happened. You know, I'm not going to do too many of those. I've done a couple of videos with those thumbnails, but I don't often do them. I just feel like it's kind of a cop-out. So thank you. Thanks for all the support, everybody. And thanks to Rick for being a part of this since like 2008, helping out with all all the different videos back in the day of all the pedals and amps and all his stuff. Everybody's been asking me to do a gear rundown of your gear, Rick. So if we can do that, maybe, I don't know if there's time before the end of the year or early next year or something, man, let us know. Magic Man says both of his Kiesels are fantastic, top-notch instruments. I love mine. I had, yeah, as I said earlier, I didn't have any expectations. I didn't think it would be bad, but I didn't know it was going to be as good as it is. It's it really is like a custom shop guitar, and you're saving yourself a fortune. All the keys to the guitar shop shows really showed how good Shane, Dr. Rick are. The rhythm section aren't slouches either. You know, it comes down, thanks, I appreciate the kind words. The rhythm section make it easy, or they don't. So that's why we usually have either Drew or Richo on drums, because we know they can pretty much do anything. And Dave is rock solid as well, so it makes it easy for us to play. If you play with a tough rhythm section that aren't good, your playing goes downhill because you're sort of trying to carry everything as opposed to playing off what's happening around you. And there's a fine line between playing over things and playing with everything else. So, thanks. Yeah, we'll hopefully do more of those coming up soon. We've now got a much faster way of producing those videos. So, fingers crossed we can get some more of those done. I love my Victory VC35 amps. Could you try one? Yeah, I've tried a couple of Victory amps before, man. They're not really my sort of sound. They're a very bright amp. The ones that I've tried have always had like this really bright top end. That maybe could have been in part to the speaker cabinet. We've tried a few in shops, and a guy we know also has one. Yeah, I've never really loved the sound of those. I've tried one live as well, a little combo, which wasn't bad if you kind of dime it. But yeah, it might be time to revisit a few of those. I haven't actually done any like official reviews, and sometimes when you try stuff in shops, you're not really getting the full experience of what you could potentially be getting anywhere else. So I'll see what I can do. I don't know any shops locally that have them, but I'll keep an eye out. I'm having a hell of a time trying to tune my Floyd to E flat. Yeah, man. Someone's got to tell Floyd to, no, I don't know. I don't like those things, man. So I'm not the guy to ask about Floyd Roses. Yeah, I had enough trouble tuning the guitar, understanding what the hell was happening with those. There's too much going on for me. If you like the dive bomb, they're all good, but yeah, that's not how I play. There we go. Jason, did I miss a question here from someone asking about delays? I'm not too sure. Rick says, I have a couple of great sounding delays from Crazy Tube Circuits and Chicalis Audio Works. The Jack's Prisoner is also a good one. It is. Yeah, the Maxon 8E999 is not a bad one either, but yeah, it just depends if you like the larger size. But the time delay at the moment is probably my favorite digital delay. The what's it called? What's the Tillay delay is also really good. Tilay. Both of those are killer, as well as what Rick said, the Prisoner. I use all of those ones. So yeah, that's one of my things I'll change from time to time on a board. Just change the delay over and mess around with something else. Hey, NJ, thanks, man. What's my favorite song to play live? You know, in terms of like the blues standards, I go through phases with stuff. At the moment I'm loving playing Riot in Cell Block. What's it called? Riot in Cell Block. Oh man, I've forgotten what it's called. In Cell Block Cell Block number 9. That's one of my favorites at the moment. But I would say one of my all-time favorite songs is As the Years Go Passing By, the Albert King tune. I love that. I would say that's probably my favorite. In terms of instrumentals, I like Chitlin's Concan. I think that's a great song just to noodle to and have a bit of fun when you're doing instrumentals. Little Wing's also fun too. You can kind of go crazy to that tune. But yeah, they're probably my favorite. I've always liked that Cell Block song, but I only just started playing it just before. I guess sometime last year. I don't even remember. But that's a great tune. I don't tend to sort of play blues the same way. I might take a slow blues and play it as a funk the next time, or take a funk and play it as a slow blues the next time. So blues for me is kind of different to how some people approach it. I got my lyrics bag in my head, and depending on the feel is depending on which song will kind of fit. I used to just play stuff the same way a lot, and I don't get that much excitement out of that. I like just literally jamming. Like, oh, you start a rhythm and we'll go. Pick a key. So that's kind of the fun for me, is that, you know, collaborative thing of listening and trying to make it work. And I think that also makes everybody focus more on what they're playing when no one knows exactly what's about to happen or who's playing what. I really enjoy that experience. Jamming for me is the most fun. Rick says we can shoot a rig rundown as soon as I unsubscribe my wife from your channel. Yeah, thanks, mate. Let's do it. And thanks, NJ. Cheers. If you don't know his channel, guys, go support NJ's in the UK. I'm pretty sure you're in the UK, right? Or yeah. Anyway, you're an English guy living somewhere over there. So yeah, go check out his channel. He does pedal videos and guitar videos and all that kind of stuff. And thanks again, mate. I appreciate it. Yankee Peter says, hi, Shane from Detroit. Welcome, mate. I've been to Detroit a few times over the years. When you sell your gear, how do you do it? Where I live, pretty much you have to do it at a police station. Yeah, it's a pretty different culture where I live to Detroit, I'm tipping. So it just depends. Sometimes I'll list it on eBay and it will sell, and I'll have a box and I'll ship it off. Or sometimes people organize a courier, or sometimes I'll meet somebody somewhere midway between their place and my place, somewhere public where there's lots of people. That's kind of how that works. So yeah, it kind of works most of the time. I don't often have just random dudes showing up at the house. I've stopped doing that. So yeah, that's usually how it works. And usually when I list something, they're like, oh, are you the guy that did the video? I'm like, yeah. So they know what kind of condition it's going to be in just based on those videos. And generally I can sort of sell stuff pretty quickly, irrespective of what it is, once they establish that I've owned it. It's kind of funny how that works, but yeah, it's made sometimes selling stuff a lot easier. But that's generally how it works. I'm willing to also compromise and meet somebody somewhere else, but we usually pick somewhere the daytime, and you know, just to be sure. I've never had any problems with any of that stuff. Oh, my favorite Shane song is "Take Me on That Ride." Oh, thanks, man. That was made rock by the Doc. He played that great. I don't know if I got a pick here. I don't know. He played that great. How did he do it? Yeah. Doesn't quite sound as good on unplugged electric guitar, but. And then he played that. What was that song called? Eye of the Tiger kind of riff. Yeah, anyway, I can't play it like that, but yeah. Thanks, man. How about a rig rundown of some guy in glasses and a mustache that Dr. Rick's wife has never met? Hey, that'd be funny. We'll buy one of those, like, disguise glasses and mustache combo things. Years ago, Dr. Rick's review of a Japanese 60 reissue Strat convinced me to get one. Very cool. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what that video was. There's just too many to keep track of. Sorry. What's the difference between a Maxon 808 and SD9? Let me have a look at the Maxon SD9. I can't remember which one that is. A recreated tone knob layout. You know, I don't know. It says distortion, right? So I'm tipping the Maxon SD9 is a distortion versus an overdrive. So the Maxon 808's a vintage overdrive. So I think the difference is going to be the gain structure and the overall output tone. I'm sure there'll be videos of both of those side by side on YouTube. Just take a listen. Distortion's very, very different to overdrive. Overdrive's not the same sort of thing. Overdrive has more of a focused sound. Distortion is like a more full-on in the low end generally, as well as the high end. What's if you like the Marshall Soundshane, the Victory Sheriff 22 is a good one. Okay, cool. All right, thanks. I don't know that one, but I'll take a look. As I said at the start of the stream, if anyone missed it, there's an amp that surfaced and showed itself to me the other day. I was like, oh, I haven't told anyone about this yet, but it is something that I had, and it was great. I had a really bad back years ago, and I flipped it. I was thinking, do I do it again? Yeah, it's bad. I got it bad at the moment because I know I can't always find another one of these. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. But anyway, I'm going to change strings on a Floyd today. I'm not looking forward to it. Last time it was 30 plus years ago. Man, there's some old strings. That's got to be some sort of record, right? Or you're just saying you obviously bought the guitar recently and you need to change them. Anyway, that's a lot of time to go past. John says, last time I bought one of Shane's guitars, I didn't even bother checking it out and just put it in the car. Well, you did. Yeah, it's well, that's it. I always list the condition they were in, and obviously, if it's got issues, I would have let you know too. Sonic distortion. Okay, there you go. Cool. That's what the SD9 is. So yeah, very different sound. I don't think I've actually ever used one of those before. Sound Overzoid. Man, that's a great pedal. It's not a clone. We compared it up against the clone like 10 years ago or however long ago that was. But they're a very different pedal. The Overzoid's more of it's a transparent overdrive, but it's got a rounder sound to it, whereas the Klon has this upper mid spike and you lose a bit of low end. So they're very different, but you can get kind of similar results if you use them as a clean boost. But yeah, the biggest difference is the top end and the upper mids boost of the Klon's pretty prominent, and it's not a nice pedal to use on its own. Whereas the Overzoid it's one of the best pedals of the year when I reviewed it, but also one of the best sort of like off clean kind of pedals. I would treat that more as a overdrive you use for more chord stuff. And the Klon, you could push into that or use a Klon as a boost. That's kind of how they work. All right. Wow, we've been going a while. Far out. I just started to feel tired. I was like, what are we... Rick's asking me, is it another super reverb? It's not a super reverb. This one I can fit in the car, which makes it more dangerous. I really liked your reviews about the Sound. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate that, mate. Yeah, it's always been fun to kind of like try stuff that wasn't anywhere online and just put it out there. I think back when I first did those, there weren't a lot of reviews, if any, of that pedal. And Mark from Sound, man, he makes some of the coolest stuff. You know, I still follow him on Instagram, and I look at his design. I'm like, there's nothing like this anywhere in the world. That guy has like the coolest eye for that sort of steampunk design where it's metal and abstract, and it just looks so cool. I love his logo as well. I'm a big fan. For years, I had this little like light bulb thing that used to tell me that my power on my power supply on my one spot chain was active, and it used to just light up, and it broke recently. I was like, damn, I should get more of these things. There's just a little. He makes these little things that just look amazing. Yeah, his stuff's really, really cool. Does my Tokai have 50s or 60 style wiring? I have no idea. I have opened it up and I thought I saw. Nah, you know what? I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. It's a 50s profile neck, so possibly it's got like a 50 style thing going on, but I had it kind of reworked recently. I had a new switch put in, had a high pass filter put in. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but yeah, I'm not 100% certain, sorry. Eric says most recent drive is the Tumnus Deluxe I got last week. They're very good. Awesome pedals. I got a chance to review some of Brian Wampler's pedals. Sometimes they're a little overcomplicated, his stuff, and you sort of got to fiddle around with them a bit too much, but the Tumnus is great. It's 3 controls, or at least it was the one that I reviewed. Maybe 4 on a newer version or something, but yeah, they're very, very cool. Like, you just click them on, you're good to go. There's so many of those kind of Klon pedals that are awesome. And again, you know, I showed you this before. This guy makes a handmade in the US Klon clone called the Pony Boy from Shelly, and that's killer. It works great. It works every bit as good as any of these other clones. Yeah, Rick had a Morgan PR12 amp. Yeah, man, that thing was so loud. I think the problem at the gig, for whatever reason, you thought it was a great idea to stand like 6 feet in front of everyone else with your amp. Or you had your amp 6 feet in front of everyone else. It was brutal. Great sounding amp. I was actually kind of shocked you sold that, to be honest. That thing was so good. Yeah, you've done that with a few things. I knew that little Tweed amp you had wouldn't last. As soon as I saw it, I went, you know, there's no way you're going to keep this. I can't even remember what that thing was called. It was like this little rectangular box that was like taller than it was wide, and all the valves were exposed at the back. And I thought it looked beautiful, but I knew that wouldn't be a keeper, that thing. I love the sound of that little Milkman's pretty cool, but yeah, I can't think of what your new one's called, but it actually sounds great as well. What's my thought on Gretsch guitars? Great overall. I mean, like, I like their hardtail guitars more than I like their sort of big arch top ones with the Bigsbys and all that, like the White Falcons. I mean, I can appreciate those. They're beautiful, but they're huge. Just far too big for me. I'm a short ass, so they don't feel that great for me to play, other than if I'm sitting down. But yeah, I don't really get into that kind of sound, but their pickups are great, and the ones that are kind of like a Les Paul in their shape, some of those Streamliners, I think they're called, really cool. One of the best ones I played was one of their least expensive ones. I did that last year, and it was cool. It was really good. I was so close to buying that, but yeah, I think when I went back, it was gone. And that's the risk you run demoing stuff from a shop, because there's been some nights where I've set a video live and then it sells at midnight and I got to run the amp back. So that's happened with the Princeton. It happened with a few other amps, and yeah, that Gretsch, I can't remember they got these obscure names that I can never remember, like GS52 whatever. The silver one I played and the black one were both great in that LP style shape. Tumnus Deluxe has 5 knobs. That's right. Cool. My whole board is Keeley besides my tuner. Keeley make great stuff. You know, I tried one of their pedals years ago, and it had a problem. It was one of their chorus. I think it was called a Seafoam chorus. But every other pedal I've tried has been awesome. And someone was asking about a great Reverb pedal earlier. I'm not sure who that was now. Sorry, there's been a lot of questions. But Keeley make one that's called the Tri-Verb or something. It's like a 3-in-1. That thing is great through an effects loop. So If you want an analog, like reverb pedal, I think it's mostly analog. That is an awesome one. Someone can correct me on the name, but it's hard to remember, like, all these things. The Swart Atomic Space Tone. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, flip that on the bay. You know, when I got my 2-Rock years ago, I thought, oh, that's a guitar I'll never sell. It's going to be, you know, I'll keep that for an amp I'll never sell. It'll be around for a long time. And I don't know what it was about that. I just kind of missed the Fender sound. It was just more what I liked, even at the expense of it not maybe some of those amps sounding as premium. But yeah, they're such a thick sound. They kind of you get a bit over it after a while. And that's why I don't often buy lots of different brands of amps anymore, because I found what works. And if I can take a pedal board and throw it on one amp that's smaller and one amp that's bigger and get a pretty similar tone, I'm happy enough with that. Or the Marshall, I don't even need pedals, which is how I ran it the last few times I played it live. So yeah, amps are a funny thing for me. I just keep it and play it really safe now. I bought the new Ace of Tones last week, TS and Blues Breaker. Very cool, man. The treble boost on the Blues Breaker just makes my semi-hollow scream. Unreal. Oh, it's great to find a good combination of stuff for a certain guitar. And that sounds like it really works well. That's from David. Awesome stuff. I almost got one of the cheap streamliners, but the lack of fret markers after the 12th fret put me off. You know what? I'm not even sure I remember that on the guitar. So I've noticed one thing about Gretsch guitars that I don't like, and that's the block on the first fret. If they've got the block inlays, they've got a marker here. And I'm like, why? That's the only thing visually about the Gretsch guitars I'm not a huge fan of is their big block markers. Some of them have those like half thumbnail things, which look pretty cool. But as great as those big block inlays look, I don't like it on the first fret. Maybe I'm just OCD about that, but anyway. Dane says he got a Gretsch baritone the other day. That's one guitar I haven't played. Baritone in any lefty. I don't think so. Jason asks, what's my favorite online guitar learning website? I've tried TrueFi for years. I don't use any of them. I just don't. I'd rather just get lessons off YouTube and find stuff that I want to learn at the time. Or buy an instructional video that you can rewatch a million times. I guess this is what some of these online lesson things are. And if they're something you can rewatch and just keep going over a certain spot, then it's exactly the same thing. But I always found learning a particular style that I wanted to learn was far easier for me, like the Matt Smith Beginner's Guide to Blues Guitar. I knew when I got through that, it was easy because I was like, oh, okay, now, I mean, I put a lot of work into it, but it made it easier because it was the style of music I wanted to learn. I don't know if some of these online learning things have drilled it down into that sort of particular niche. And I know Texas Blues Alley he does a lot of great stuff. Anthony, he's a great guy and his blues lessons are the best. But I'll generally just pick up those things from time to time. Because, yeah, this year coming up, I actually want to invest a bit more time into the playing and try to get some different sounds again this year. It's been a while since I've really knuckled down and learnt a lot of stuff. I might pick up little bits per year, but not really like diving headfirst into it. So maybe that could be a fun thing to try, some of those online lessons. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with that. I haven't used any of them. I just get lessons off YouTube normally for stuff I want to learn at that particular moment. I'm not by any means saying I'm above any of that stuff, by the way. I just have not tried it. Omni Reverb, that's the one. Thank you, Jeff. Hey, we've got Jackson Floyd Rose. A 13-year-old son, Jackson Floyd Rose. He's in bed or shouldn't be. Haha, it would be rad. Hey, no worries. Shout out, mate. Thank you. That's is that a I don't know, is that a real name? Jackson Floyd Rose. That's so cool if that's the if that's true, mate. That's the greatest name ever. Well done. How do you find the volume pots on the electro? Oh, he's asking GRB. Yeah, there's two different volume. There's like a master volume control pot, and then there's also like the individual one on those guitars. The Omni, yeah, it is the Omni Reverb. That's the one that I did. Very cool. Hey, Ryan, welcome, man. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for dropping in. I recognize your avatar there, name. Very cool. Hope you're doing well. If you're from Western Australia, I'm tipping. Jason says True Fire has learning paths so you can focus on whichever genre of music you want to focus on. Oh, that's great. Yeah, like one thing I always try to explain to people is if you're learning music you're not interested in, it's really hard to learn. Like if I was learning, you know, whatever, just anything outside of what I wanted to learn at any particular time, it's really hard for me to focus on that unless it's your career. But for me, it's like, okay, I want to learn this song, or I just want to learn, hey, what's that chord? Sometimes last year I went through a few of the 50 jazz licks that they posted on some YouTube channel. And another mate of mine went through them as well. He goes, hey, I know that. I heard that on this 50 jazz licks video that's on YouTube. I was like, yeah, that's exactly where I got it from. So, yeah, you kind of got to just follow whatever your inspiration is. It makes learning fun and frustrating too, but also, you know, any learning process is frustrating. I don't think many people just pick up a guitar and can play a riff they've never played before if it's out of their bag. It just takes time. It's easy to learn blues licks that are similar to other blues licks you already know, but if you go from, say, playing an Albert King lick to Robin Ford, just as an example, or some of the Chris Kane stuff, it's a whole different sound. It's a whole different, you know, I say muscle memory, but it's just, you know, your hand and your brain aren't connected in those ways. So, yeah, you've kind of got to, you've got to really love a sound to want to learn it. That's how it has been for me, at least, anyway. The 68 Custom Pro Reverb, no, it's, I'm not giving it away. I'll let you know later, mate. There might be a surprise video coming up. We'll see how we go. Have I ever played a PV Viper amp? I haven't. You know, that's one amp I used to have a lot of requests for, maybe, I don't know how many years ago now, a long time ago. Never tried one. I know the Tone King did a great video of the PV Viper versus possibly the Katana. I think it was that amp. The PV Viper sounded pretty good. I think they get a bit of a hard time because they got a lot of flashing lights. But I think that's what he did in his video, and it sounded great. Or he might have compared it up against a Fender GTX, or not a GTX, a GT, like one of the originals. I was like, oh, okay, the PV sounds wild. So, yeah, I've never tried one. I've only heard videos online about them. I've seen a few around in secondhand shops and never actually played one. Ah, Perth. That's right, Ryan. Cool, man. See, some stuff stays in here. Thanks for all the support, mate, as well. I appreciate it. Nostro 1001 says, and I should say g'day to Shane and everybody. I've been lurking for easily an hour or so. Oh, cool, man. Well, welcome. Thanks for hanging out. How many, did we get it? Did we get to 100 thumbs up? Let's have a look. 126? Oh, thanks, everybody. That's awesome. So there's not a chance I'm going to timestamp this, so those who are asking the questions live can, you can be the lucky ones tonight, or unlucky, whichever way you want to look at that. Surprisingly, the Gretsch Electromatic G5220 I got doesn't have a block inlay at the first fret. That's cool. I mean, look, it doesn't really matter. It's just, you know, some people will love that and others won't, I guess. But for me, it's a bit, it's a bit too much of the block inlay thing on that first fret. I've seen some and I'm like, what's different? It took me a while to work out what was different about them. I'm like, something looks different about these block inlays. Oh yeah, there's a huge one on the first fret in case you can't find it. Because that's what those inlays are. They're markers. Like, you would think the first fret doesn't necessarily need one, but I guess something different's cool. Line 6 Spider. That's it, mate. You got it. Yeah, I'm buying the all-valve version. It comes with a... Yeah, no. It's not it. It's an amp. You know what? I don't think I owned it when we knew each other. I don't think I've owned it since... Oh, hang on. No, I don't know if we were hanging out when I actually owned this amp. Which, you know, as your playing develops and your ear changes and you realize, like, simplicity is great. I had an amp that I loved the tone of, but it was just too heavy at the time. But I think I might be able to get away with it. Well, I'll call you tomorrow. It's probably getting a bit late now. What's your opinion on the Fender 59 Bassman as a guitar amp? I wouldn't own one personally, and they're great if you can crank them up and you love playing rock and roll, or you can get that sweet spot out of them. Otherwise, I don't think they sound that good. I'd rather own a Super Reverb. A great video I did with Rick, actually, because his sort of rock and roll playing, you know, classic rock, all that kind of stuff, really suits a Bassman cranked. But you just can't get them up that loud at gigs. You need some sort of power attenuator or something, because you're going to be killing everybody. And I don't think they sound that pleasing to the ear compared to a Super Reverb. They're both different, right? I mean, some people will say the exact opposite. This is just a personal opinion thing. I'd rather buy a larger amp that had reverb. I think it just adds a sense of niceness. And, you know, some of those Tweed amps can get awfully spiky on the high end as well. And that's something that works in your favor once you crank the amps up. If you can push them to, you know, 1 o'clock on the volume, they sound amazing. And they won't sound as bright at that point because the compression kind of kicks in as well. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of those amps. I don't dislike them, but they're not my favorite Fender amp by any stretch of the imagination. I'd rather own a single 12-inch speaker combo amp than a Bassman. I just think Bassman's a overkill. But it's... Yeah, you got to ask yourself if you can get it up to that point and if you love the sound of it, and are you playing with a band where that works? Because, yeah, it'll peel the paint off the walls. Ryan wants to know everybody's opinion on compound radius fretboards. There we go. I'll leave that one for the chat, see what everybody says, and I'll read some responses out. It's funny, you know, neck profile and fretboard radius and all that kind of stuff used to mean way more to me even a few years ago than it does now. There's so many guitars I've played. Maybe because I'm playing more guitars, it matters less. I think a good guitar is a good guitar irrespective of the neck shape and all that kind of stuff. Now, generally, I still have things I'll go for. If I'm buying a long-term investment, I generally will want a neck that's meets a certain requirement for me, but it's not always the way. So, yeah, it's interesting how that's kind of changed for me lately. I can just appreciate different guitars and feels and necks and all that kind of stuff. Except for except for Floyd Rose's on a guitar, man. I can't work that out. Someone, hang on. I think I missed a... What's your... have you played the new GFI Skylar and Orca Reverb and Delay? I haven't heard of those either. Sorry, Rick. Part of the attraction of the Gretsch is they're a little quirky, something different. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, there's so many straight up clones of other guitars and all that kind of stuff. Gretsch definitely have their own kind of look and vibe and all that sort of thing going on. Blues DeVille 410. Yeah, they're a great amp. See, that's an amp I would probably choose over a Bassman as well, which probably doesn't make a lot of sense to most people because you would think, hey, isn't the DeVille less expensive than the Bassman? And it is, but in my opinion, it's far more flexible. It's got a better clean. You get nice reverb. You got a dirt channel that's there that you can use, and it sounds good. You know, we did a gig. Rick and I did a gig actually with a backline, and I saw there was a Fender DeVille 410 and some Marshall amp. I'm like, dude, I got the Fender. You can have the Marshall. This was before I even knew how to dial them in. I remember Rick going, man, that Fender's pretty good. DeVilles are highly underrated. They're quite heavy, but they got a great just bloom of sound, man. They're super cool. A compound radius should be less noticeable as it's the best of both worlds in the era of the neck it needs. Is that what that's supposed to say? What Fender amp have you played that had the most drip in the spring reverb or even the best sounding reverb? So the Super Reverb, Fender Deluxe Reverb are both great, and the Fender Pro Reverb are all really good when it comes to the sound of the reverb. You can get those to just dwell out as long as you like if you want them to. Any of those amps that have reverb in the title are usually pretty great. And they've also got, I think, a tube for the reverb as well as the spring. So there's a lot going on in that whole setup. Alex says, do you find it hard to find guitars since you're a lefty? Not so much anymore. And it's kind of a good thing. It's like, as much as I'd love to wish I was sometimes right-handed, I could walk into anywhere and find a right-handed guitar. It takes the confusion out of it a lot as well because you don't get the same options. But when you see something new, it's like, oh, cool, okay, so this is my option now. There's another one. And I think a lot of companies are now adding far more lefties into their range than they ever have. Fender, Epiphone, Gretsch, Gibson, Schecter, LTD, they're all making lots of lefties now, or more than they ever did. So it's not that hard to find them anymore, and there's also specialty left-handed shops that are around the world, mostly in the US, and they've got just about everything now. So you can, if you're really desperate for something, find something that you really want, or that you might not be able to find locally somewhere else. But I'm just lucky that the shop I borrow most of the stuff you see on the channel has a lot of lefties. That's where all they come from. I don't get to keep them. They're just on loan. But they've always got something else coming in. So I'm like, okay, whenever there's a new one, I'll come in and grab it. All right. I might have missed a question here. Sorry if I missed a... Oh, Freddie says, thank you for not dismissing the affordable stuff. I have a small PV Viper. The new one looks great. You know, I haven't looked up PV stuff for a while. They're kind of fallen off the map. It's just one of those things that happens, or happened to them, I should say. I don't know really... Like, yeah, they've just lost a lot of presence in shops. I don't know if it was the whole drama with their business practices or whatever when they fired everybody and moved everything to China. I mean, that had to have played a big part in shops, well, not even shops, but just in general, people sort of forgot about them. I don't see PV in a lot of shops in Melbourne anymore, whereas they used to be everywhere. I've owned so many PV amps. I bought lots of them new and lots of them used. There's only a couple of shops I know in Melbourne that stock them. And once that happens, they tend to go off the radar for a lot of people. I just don't see too many turning up at the jams, the open mic nights, or anything anymore. It's a real shame that they didn't keep their US stuff, that's a big thing for some people who are shopping, but if you're going to make stuff in China and you're going to charge $100 more than what you sold your US one the year before for, it's kind of a tough sell. I think that might have put a sort of sour taste in people's mouths about it. But yeah, overall, I think the Delta Blues is a great amp. Their Classic 50 410s is one of the best things I've ever heard. But it's also the heaviest amp I've ever picked up. And their Classic 30s are also really good. They make a couple of different Classic 30s. Their black ones are great. Their tweed ones, the standard tweed ones, are also really good. But what's my opinion on the Fender Princeton Blackface 65 amps? They're awesome. I've done plenty of reviews of Princetons. Just type in Fender Princeton in the blues and you'll see probably 6 videos pop up. They're great amps. They're a good small gig amp or good recording amplifier. They're louder than you probably assume they are too. So if you want one to play at home, you probably won't get them up to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock before they start to give you that gnarly kind of sound. They're far louder than most people think, even though they're technically a small amp. So, but great amps. I think they're really good. I feel like if I see something, I have to buy it there and then because I'm not sure I will see another. That's kind of how I feel about this amp that showed up again after, I don't know how long it's been, man. It's been a long time. Back when I was playing in the trio days, so a long time ago. And yeah, I might just go down and play test it tomorrow and see whether or not I can get if there's any issues with it. One of my prerequisites for buying an amp, no major rattles. I can't handle an amp rattling if I'm playing it on my own. It's a deal breaker for me because that's a rabbit hole you don't want to go down. Sometimes you can get a rattle or a buzz and it could be any 10 different things. I did a video about that at one point because there was just so many things to look for. I don't want to buy a problem, especially if you're recording with it. You don't want it rattling, right? So, yeah, I might go down tomorrow. Rick, if you got the day off, mate, let's go do it. We'll film it. You don't see too much in the way of new PV guitars either. Raptor line appears to be low end, mind you. I've never seen one in the flesh. Yeah, you're right. I haven't seen any new PV guitars in a long time. They make a couple of good old guitars, though, USA made. If you're looking for a good, affordable Tally or Strat PV make, although they used to make what are they called? I can't remember what they're called. PV Predator? Is it Predator? Is that what they're called? They make their Strats and Tallies. I could be wrong. Yeah, again, it's hard to remember all the stuff, but I ended up buying one of those from one of my friends in San Francisco many years ago, who let me stay with him for a while, and he had the Strat, and I saw the Tally, and I was like, man, what a great deal this is. So I bought him that, and yeah, it was like the matching one, made in the US. I couldn't believe it. Really good quality guitar. Yeah, bass breakers are pretty good amps. Oh, some of them are good amps. Some of them aren't. They never used to be that reliable, but they've gotten better. The 15 is a great amp. The 30R is an awesome amplifier. Their first release of those were like so unreliable. Like not only just in terms of working properly, but I'd go into shops and I'm like, this amp sounds awful. What's going on? The speaker inside it is actually sitting on the bottom part of the cabinet, like it detached from the front grill. I saw so many. Rick and I blew one up on camera. It was like, oh, all right, next. Like that kind of stuff can happen, right? But yeah, it was like there was a range of Blues Juniors that all had faulty reverb tanks for about 12 months. And the original bass breakers were really faulty. And then they got their act together. And the 30R and onwards were great. Like that amp was one of the best. It's like a Marshall. It is a PV Predator. Cool. My guitar student got one. Great little guitar. That's from Mike. Yeah, those are killer. You usually pick them up for a couple $100, like, which is pretty great for a US made instrument. All right. Now, if I've missed any questions, feel free to let me know in the just add in the blues me. Sometimes the chat just moves 3 pages, and I always try to get back to some of them, but then all of a sudden you can't go past a certain point, or at least I can't on my side. So I'll wrap this up shortly. It's getting kind of late. We'll go for another 4 minutes, and that'll be about it. That means we've probably been going for 2 hours or so. Yeah, 2 hours, 10 minutes already. Wow. I'm glad I started a little bit earlier today, because usually I'd kick it off around midnight, and it's a mess. Magic Man says, I almost exclusively buy used gear. You get some crazy good deals. It makes sense. Like, I do that a lot with some camera equipment. Not all the time, but sometimes, because you know as soon as you see something, or if you meet the person that sells it, and that's not always a prerequisite either, but you can just get a good vibe on something and go, okay, so this has hardly been used. And you'll save a fortune. Sometimes you'll pay more for like the big brand stuff, not more than you would new, but you might pay a little bit more than the secondhand value sometimes. But if it's in great condition, you're still going to save yourself a third at least, or half, depending on the brand. Yeah, used is fine. I mean, this is the thing. Everyone wants a new guitar, but guitars will last forever. Sorry, did I miss a... I might not be seeing all the questions here. I just saw Rick reply to someone here. Shane swears by the eminent Swamp Thing and Texas Heat speakers as replacement in Fender amps. The Celestion G12 M65 is also great. Agreed. Yeah, the Swamp Thing is good if you want the traditional Fender sound, but with more volume and more clean headroom. It's a great speaker. The Texas Heat will give you a fatter sound with a little bit less top. So if you find it's a bit bright, you can throw in the Texas Heat, and that's what I've got in my Marshall, believe it or not, which you would think, hey, shouldn't that have some sort of other speaker in there? Yeah, normally, but I found that amp extremely bright. So the Texas Heat took out the amount of tops I needed to for that amp, and it's extremely playable now, and it sounds killer. Yeah, check out guitarspeakerguide.com if you've got any questions about speakers, because yeah, I've got a million different like posts on that site. Hey, thanks, Edveda Man. That's hard to say. Thanks. Have a good night, mate. I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out. Anyone going to start a stream after Shane? Well, yeah, if anyone does, I'll... Actually, did I see a stream? Let me just check my subs. No, there's not one immediately after this one. Anyway, yeah, all good. All right, we might wrap this up. Thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate it, and listening to me incoherently babble on about stuff. I can't wait to see what you think of a couple of videos I got planned. They're longer than normal, but a lot of work went into them, and I think you'll get a kick out of them. At least I hope so. So, yeah, probably from the 15th onwards, you're going to see a couple of huge videos go up. I put a lot of work into, as well as I got to get one more done. But yeah, I've had fun making these videos, and I hope you enjoy them. All right, we might wrap this up. Thanks again, everybody. And yeah, thanks for all the super chats and for all the subscriptions to the channel, all that kind of stuff. I appreciate it. And all the questions, everything else. And we'll catch you on the next one. I'll probably do one right before the end of the year. Or, yeah, sometime around there. Maybe around the 23rd-ish. Something like that. All right, rock on, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate it. And if I missed your question, just leave it in the regular comment section, and I'll see it soon. Thank you. Cheers.